Come up.
Yay. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Okay. Aloha no kako. My name is Taupori Tangaro, and welcome to Mōkaulele. And Mōkaulele, Mōkau is a hook, and lele means to fly, so it's the flying hook. And what are we hooking? We're hooking stories. And like fish, you don't just throw the hook into the ocean and expect to pull something up. There's a bait that we got to use. We chum the water. So the chum that gets you to this conversation, this hook, is art. And who are we hooking up? We're hooking you up. Why we're hooking you up? Because we need your story. We need all of our stories to make changes, good changes. We need our stories to transform communities. And art is a perfect playing field to look at one story, whether you identify as an artist or not, it doesn't matter. It's the story that we have. The art is just the door. So this is Mōkaulele, and the intention is to grow leadership. All of us are leaders. So that's the Mōkaulele I'm talking about, personal leadership for community well-being. So if you, that's the UPS, man. We have some UPS happenings on this street here. But some of us, we identify leaders outside of our bodies. Well, we need them, the outside leaders, but we also need the internal leaders. And so this Mōkaulele is quite personal, although it works within the realms of the profession. And in this case, in the University of Hawaii, we're using stories to transform the university into a better, an Indigenous servings institution to better serve our Indigenous communities and all those that come to Hawaii to learn and to engage. Let me get this Prezi thingy here going. Again, my name is Taupori Tangaro, and yeah. Now, this is not a light surface conversation we're having. The University of Hawaii, 10 campuses, is committed, strategically committed to the indigenization of the university and how we serve our communities. So this platform is one of many platforms that we're engaging in that closes the gap between academia and community. And there should never be a wall between those communities. And so storytelling is a great way of bringing people's voices forward, and in their voice will be their values and their aspirations. And that's what we need as a university system, is to know the values of our community and how to grow those values and sustain them. And that is called Hawaii Papokeao. This framework, we'll be using a framework. It's a mythological framework to host this conversation. And it's a framework that I'm hoping that you begin to apply to your own life. The next time you look in the mirror and you're brushing your teeth and you're going, where am I in my story? What's my hua? What's my ha'alele? What's my hua ka'i? So at the end of this talking story, you'll learn of these terms. And you'll see how these terms can help you guide and assess where your story is. For some of us, our stories are very active and alive, but for some of us, our stories went to sleep for a bit and we had to wake them up. And then for some of us, we might have to dig a little deep because we've got so busy with life that our story got left behind and didn't get on a bus with us to work. So we got to pick them up. We have Meleanna Meyer, and I'm gonna let her talk about her, and I'll just ask questions as we move on. But why don't we introduce Meleanna Meyer? Mele au hea oi.
Au hea oi. Ma'ane ma makiki, aloha mai kako, te hea o ko, hau'oli au, e ike o ko, at least your ko'inoa. You know, I'm number 2 of a large family. Many of you know my beloved sisters. We do have an older sister. I'm number 2 in the line. Our dear sister Malia passed years ago. She was a year and a half older than myself. I'm number 2. and in the lineup, and there's 7 of us, and our beloved parents. My father just passed this year at 92. And I also have a whole bunch of beloved, wonderful cousins, aunts, and uncles, like many of us here tonight. And I'm a keikio kailua nei ma kamoku o Ahu. And my parents are Harry and Emma Meyer, and now I'm intimidated, and I lost my paper. I've misplaced my paper, so I cannot tell you. Oh, I remember my my grandparents' names, but you know, the mo'okua, how I was rehearsing and stuff, but I misplaced my pipa. So just know that we are from Hilo. We are also, as Emma, Ayuklen Aluli and Aima Navahi, and those folks are cousins, aunts, grand aunts, and from Ka'u and from Maui. And you're talking to an artist, or you're listening to an artist who's an introvert, which is why I'm going to mumble, but I'm going to stop now and just practice and share my oli that I've been practicing all day for Taupuri and all of you, because he hamana Mōkaulele Hawaii. Valeno, and at 65, this is an offering to all of you. This is a new oli that Kumu Lake offers, and when we go traveling, and it's something to share. So I really wanted to offer this to you all tonight. And our Kumu is so beloved, and he's here with us now, all of our Kumu. So leo na ike kupi na iyo ko lalu leo e. He leo walono hia, he leo paka hea I kula wahine. E malama I ko lelo I kuliana I kipa mai ai. He leo e ko kolo ana I ke veo na pupuna. Ho eve ia he iri ho kahi no kako e. Au heo koe nā hoahana o ka ipu ka ha mama. E uno no mai ana I ka halele hua he hea ne ke kipa. O ko māko alu kupuna kaioni ka nau e mua. O ko māko uhai ia I ke ala loko ka opu halau. O ko o māko I ke ave o ke kaula piko. Ho'okahi kako I ke aloha, o ke aloha no vale no e.
Mā pu te hanua te laua e mā puno I te puli o te wei aloha aloha te pa e hutai huki palai huki ino e noe te unai. Noe mai la tale hua mata noe noe tale hua mata noe noe di vole I te anu anu ti ala I ti papola e ala I te tuhi tuhi li mata nai tau mauna hina e hina. E hina no pao wauale no, e hina no pae kaua I ka aha I ali ala he anu he anu ai o tomo. Yeah. Oh,
Aloha
no
mai
better way.
kumu.
No better way to acknowledge and welcome people's spirit into this conversation. And storytelling is really a dialect of our spirit. And when we remove that dialect, we lose access. So we're actually building curriculum and university experiences based on people's stories. So it's not only that they got to come and memorize the stories in the textbook, but they actually come to the university system with their stories in place. And as they advance in their journey in academia, the chapters to their stories get added to. So by the time they graduate, their stories are in hand and clarified. And so mahalo nui. So lakoala, all of us, we're going to be, where am I? So there's 5 nodes to this evening's sharing. We're going to begin with the hua. The hua means the egg, the beginning, the point of conception. And for us in this framework, the hua really helps us understand the nature and the early nurturing of the nature of the child. And how did the home, the domestic, the domestic life, the community life outside of the home. How did the formative years contribute to who Meleanna is today and what she's able to do for her community, because something began at home? So can you share with us, Meleanna, your hua?
You know, I would love to, because it's rare to do that. Taupuri, it's rare to do that, Kumu. So, you know, I was raised with a whole bunch of other siblings. There's 7 of us in all, mom and papa. And we all grew up in a beautiful home on Mokapu, originally, with all of our cousins all on a big row, you know, because in the days that my folks got married, you know, it was illegal to marry one Hawaiian Chinese and one Haole guy. So I think they call it misogyny or something. Anyway, no, for real. So in the 50s, they wanted to, you know, get a place over in town, but the place they picked didn't accept Hawaiian Chinese, only had Haole people. So it was a heavy thing for my father, but then they all went over to be with Uncle Noah, Uncle Kep, Uncle Nani, and their families in Kailua. So the fact that we actually grew up next door to our cousins on Mokapu, it was like a lane then. It was spectacular. And that really made a difference in my life, because I just thought I had 20 other brothers and sisters, because we ran as a pack. And being one of the oldest, I was able to really appreciate that many cousins at that time, because I have about 23, 24, 25 first cousins. And many of you know them too. Any Aluli is kind of related. So when we moved into Kailua and then to Kailua Beach. And so the backyard was the beach, and that was my backyard. I got to like be there whenever I wanted to come back from school. Also, we were in a parochial school, raised to, you know, good little Catholic kids. And that was its own story, its own issue. And then we just had pretty idyllic, good fun growing up, because had so many kids. It was easier to bring in a teacher than to take 5 or 6 kids somewhere. so we had, you know, somebody come in to teach us dance, but the sewing machine teacher, you know, the sewing teacher, we had to go to her house because she had the sewing machines. But we had a lady who came to cook, not cook, but teach us how to cook. And I love to cook because I love to eat. So I learned those lessons well. But when I was young, really young, I just knew we had a wonderful art teacher, and I remember all these people, their names, their essences. 2 of them in particular, Meg Homestead. She was from Amsterdam or something, and she taught all of us art. So she'd sit there and try to show us things and stuff, and I really loved it. So my formative years, really, my folks exposed us to all of this stuff, singing and hitting each other during little rehearsal classes and stuff, and just singing well, but being kids, you know. I think it also trained us. So all of these different exposures, Taupuri, gave us a chance to kind of like look at all the arts, and then, you know, do the stuff at school. And then we all were sporty kids anyway. We were always outdoors. But the art experience really came to me as a big deal when I was in school, because I wasn't a good reader necessarily, you know, I was a small kind slow reader, and then didn't get the math well, because only to find out later that I was dyscalculate, because get plenty artists who we don't get our numbers straight and things like that. So it's either dyslexia or dyscalculia or something, because our focus is different. You know, it's that right brain thing. So growing up was extraordinary and loving, and lots of discipline. And we were raised to do things well, to do the best. We didn't have grandparents, which was really hard, really hard, because everybody else had them but us. Because my parents actually were, that was one thing they actually had in common outside of the 7 of us, was that neither of them had their parents living. So that was a very, very eha thing for me, because, you know, didn't have that generational piece. And for me, growing up with that many wonderful siblings, it was hard, you know, not enough time for mom or anybody, but good thing we had another kokua who was a cook, and she was German, and her name was Anna, and she was beloved by me because she fed me. Anyway, long story short, when I was 12 years old, I knew I was a troublemaker, not trouble, but small kind instigator. And I liked to do a lot of things with my hands. So my mom at 12 years old, believe it or not, she got me a little kiln, the kind that you plug in and you make ceramic stuff. And so she got me one little thing for Christmas, and she said, just don't go burn down the garage. Okay. So, but she left me alone. She left me out there. And about artists, we're very introvert, except when you have to teach. So I was out there in the garage for the year, doing my thing, learning how. I'm going to go get a piece of art too that I did when I was 12. It's like the cutest little thing. And then at 13, my mom said, hey, I want you to teach. And I said, Mom, I'm just a kid. How can I teach at 13? Well, my dear mother had an extraordinary little gallery called the Young of Heart in Kailua. So she took this little chapel place at St. Anthony's and turned it into a gallery workshop. So at 13, she said, okay, time to teach. I'm going, Ma, I cannot do this. And then she goes, but the kids that you're working with are smaller, are younger than you. So yeah, you can do it. So off I went, and I've been teaching since I was 13, in that sense of deep delight and relish for the a'oaku and the a'omai, because that's when I found out in my hua, in my formative understanding of who I was, that I loved to learn. And I was curious, and I loved to know about the world, and there was so much to learn. And I could have this reciprocal opportunity, not only with people, but with animals, with books, with all sorts of things. And so if you would ask me what my hua was, it was this amazing moment where I just said, okay, I guess I'm gonna be doing this. And I love it because it's art. And anything to do with art was where I was. So
I love that piece about your mother saying, okay, well, you want to instigate, I'll give you something to do with your hands, and gets a kiln. Yeah, and then you're holding the earth. So now we're not even talking about the archetypal elements to this, because there's a magic here. She gives you the crucible to play with the earth, to create things. And so I like to look at that as perhaps the ha'alele, when she told you, okay, now you have to go outside of your home. Now you have to contribute something to your community. And so it's like Pele, the point when she's gone to a journey and she's found herself, her journey took her to Hawaii, she settles. It was time for her sister, who was also like a daughter to her, Hi'iaka, because Pele was her parent in a way. And she tells Hi'iaka, okay, you've reached a certain point. Now you need to, I'm going to get you into this journey. You got to get beyond your neighborhood. There's a world out there. And so I would like to say that would be part of your ha'alele, your mother deliberately saying, no, you will do this. They're a little younger than you, but so you're a good teacher. And then you say and you've been teaching ever since. So that would be the ha'alele, the point in time where they see your nature. And sometimes the ha'alele comes from outside of the family. So you're very fortunate that the woman that gave birth to you is also the woman that pushed you out of the nest into this field. That's an extreme ha'alele. At least you flapped. You knew how to flap. Yeah. Some people, they hit the ground really hard. So that's the ha'alele, which allows us to go right into the huaka'i. But before we do go into the huaka'i, so our ohana here gathered tonight, I want you to ask yourself in your head or in your body, what is your hua? At what point did you ha'alele? You began to investigate deeply. So you went beyond just the topical knowledge, and now you began to dive down into the water. Yeah. And so, when you were young kids, swimming on the top of the ocean is a big thing. But knowing how to hold our breath and go down to the bottom and come back up, that takes a lot of skill to learn. And so, swimming is hard enough, but trusting oneself to go to the depth and to come back up, that takes some skill. And when you do it, your family, like, they praise you, like, yeah, you reach a milestone. And so that would be the ha'alele. Now, but before we go to the huakai, she said from then on she began to teach. Well, now she's on her journey as a teacher of art. And a'oakwa umai is what Meleanna refers to. So to teach in our indigenous understanding is also to learn simultaneously. So when she says to become a teacher, she's also talking about being a student simultaneously. We have some photos. Noel, can we just throw a photo in there, just a random one, and see where Meleanna takes us with it?
Yeah, good luck. Because these guys asked me for 3 or 4 photos. I said, you know what? I'm a visual artist, for God's sake. You cannot ask for 3 or 4 photos. Maybe you can if I were talking about film, or if I were talking about a boat, but I'm talking about, this is my hua, okay? This is part of my hua. These are my beloved children, these boys, with my little flag up here, which is so beautiful. And what's great about that is this is part of my ho'ina, this page. But what's important is to see that family for me, and connection and collaboration is really important, because I love this page because it talks about projects at Ilani Palace, Molokai, being in the Papa for Ho'oponopono, a sketch about the United Nations, my father, my first grandson, my mother-in-law, and my beloved friends on the bottom left, who you see, who I've done many murals with, and I want to honor them. This is Solomon Enos on the left, Al Lagunero, myself, Carl Pau, Kahi Ching, and Harinani Orm. So we've done murals at the Bishop Museum, at the Convention Center, in Kalihi on the stream, out in Mōkaulele. So all of these pieces have been done as collective works, and people have a lot to say about visual artists. Like, how can you work with all these artists and pull the ideas together? You can, if, like Taupuri talked about, if you believe in being on a canoe. You got somebody in the back of the canoe who's steering, my ka'i, okay, po'o, whatever, but you need everybody on that canoe to go forward. So I've always used that metaphor in the work I do as an artist, as a creative, to work with teams, whether they're with Keiki or our beloved colleagues below. And you see my little grandkids. I mean, I have 4 mo'opuna. So this is a great page, because this just shows you a little bit more of my some of my family members. So I love this page. Yeah. I love all the pages I sent you.
And then you do talk about family, and you're raised on a lane with family, and it's interesting that as you talk about an introvert and heart. If you know me, some people might, if you know me on the surface, you're not going to believe that I'm an introvert. But if you know me intimately, you know that I am a hapless introvert. I can be sociable for a bit, and then I got to retreat. And so this idea of being in the garage with a kiln and just being in a space of creativity, and how you find your little centering space, and then you come out and there's always a community there. But how we define family has changed. For us, family now means the people we also work with, the people that we exchange values and test each other. Families are not, well, they're never nuclear just for us. They're always an extended reality. But now they're not even, family for us is not even biological. Mm-hmm. It's biographical. And so I love the fact that you're still living in a lane, you're still functioning in your little community. And so even though this is photos intended to be the closing, we, for some way, Noea brought it forward, because I know that you're going to, community, family will follow you throughout your journey. And so why don't we get to sharing your journey with us? Okay, so we're at the huakai. no, your mother says, okay, you're going to teach, and here's the gallery you're going to teach. And from that point to us sitting right here on this day at this time, can you share with us the ups and the downs of your journey that really made the Meleanna today, that made the person that's able to use art to reflect? I mean, why even the community voice?
Yeah. Or
Why the
identity. Yeah.
or
No.
identity? Why did you go that route and not, me, I, this is my work, this is my gallery, and why is it community
You know
and
what?
not a
Because
solo act?
no, because just as you're saying, Taupuri, when you can make sense of your own life, then on some level, the practice is in the doing of the work. So this notion of huaka'i might have begun at 12 or 13, but that's kind of like the joke, okay? Don't ever think that at 13, you know what you're doing, okay? You don't even know what you're doing at 45. I mean, at 65 on a good day, maybe. But the whole point of huaka'i is to understand that it's a journey. That is exactly what huaka'i is. And my journey was really extraordinary, only in that it's my story. It's nothing more than that. And my story took me to California, to college, to Stanford, and then overseas. I went overseas to Italy, which at 19 was a big deal for a Hawaii girl, because I was homesick in California, let alone halfway around the world. And the reason I bring up Florence is because for me, languages are very important. So we didn't have Hawaiian to learn in school. So I had to learn French, but after French, then I got to learn Italian. So I find that the visual arts, because they are a language to me, they were my first language. And because the visual arts are a language, they allowed me to feel like I could participate. And we have so many youngsters today who can participate, who can do things, but they have no access. So I did have access, I did have opportunity. And when I was living in Florence, in Italy, I learned so much about myself. And so during this huaka'i of development, I got to really appreciate not only the aesthetics of beauty, but the beauty of spirit, because everything's tied together. And that is our core as not only human beings, but Poʻe Hawaii is ke akua na kini akua na auma akua, because everything that we have in nature is sentient, as in living. And so, when we have worldviews that are so contrasting to what we were raised with, there's always that struggle. So this huaka'i for me, Kumu, has been a huge struggle, because at 19, I was learning about all this stuff. And then I was told I was too emotional as a designer. And then I was told that I was too physical, because Hawaiians, we always hugging and kissing, and you're not supposed to touch anybody when you're in, like be friendly, whatever. There's all of this other cultural stuff that you learn growing up that is familiar to you. And then you go off to school and they tell you, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you got to be like this. And it was really hard. So then I go off to Italy and have this amazing time. But most importantly, after Paul's school over there, I went to be with a French family in France. And they're a bunch of Buddhists. Here's this cute little Catholic girl, and OMG, it's like my whole world changed. It just bam, opened up, and I just went, really? And wow, you guys talking to the same guy I'm talking to, but he looks different and he sounds different because you guys speak in another language. Tibetan. Oh, okay. So for me, this huaka'i has been so rich and enormous. And when I was very young, so many things happen. You think you're somebody at 21, but no. So you get married, and then I was widowed at 26. So this huaka'i for me has been very, very extraordinary, but it's also been very, very difficult. I had two beautiful little boys. One was my hanai, because I married a widower. And, at 26, what can you do at 26? You're just a kid yourself. So I have to say, I was in Hilo, by the way. at this time, and I was going to give up my art. I put it by the door, all my supplies and things, because all I was depressed and ready to ha'alele myself. And I just said, hey, you know, kupuna, somebody out there in the universe, you better come talk to me, because I'm not wanting to be around. And that night I got this beautiful message that I wrote down on a piece of paper on by my bed, and it was "Pumai ka'ie mea hana e liko liko no e au makavalu e valu no ia'u." And I asked your beloved mother-in-law during that time, it was 1982, like what that meant. And I had already done a piece of art, and it's in my room. That's one piece that will never leave this house. And she gave me such encouragement, because my kupuna, my aumakua, were able to tell me that night, "Pomai ka'ie," blessing on the doer of the work. Mea hana e, liko liko no'eau, like a bud coming to fruition of benefit to all. At least that was the rough translation that I remember. And so this huaka'i, you know, it's important that people know that the huaka'i isn't measured in the same way the hua is measured, or the ha'alele, or the ho'ina, because it makes it sound like it's like this part and then this is next, when in fact my huaka'i sort of like looks like this. Because I'm old, that's why. So after that night, that day, I was able to say, okay, then this art, this opportunity that I've been given to use my hands to share what I know and can create is a gift that I need to continue with. So at 26, I didn't put away the art. I embraced what I was given and have been given. Not certainly the best artist by any means, but the most dedicated and determined and dogged and sincere and passionate about my work. We often think that we have to be the best. There's no such thing as the best, but excellence is where I always have wanted to go to. So my huaka'i has been for me a journey to go towards excellence in my life. And it's just been a blast since that time, since I've been able to accept all of these things and learn, and to continue to grow and be open. My huaka'i has been nothing short of extraordinary. For those reasons, and for my beloved children who've taught me more than anything, my two boys, my dear husband, my family, all of the people, my kumu, who have held spirit for me, they've held space for me, and they've given me confidence to find my voice and to share my voice, and to get involved and to activate what I have to share. Because if you keep stuff to yourself, only going to come moldy and dusty and out of use. So if in this huaka'i, I can continue to offer and to give and to support and nurture, then I know that this huaka'i is of great purpose to me. So, and you know as well as I do, and everyone does know on this call, that, you know, we are called, we are challenged to do for our communities and the world, because we're not meant to be coming to the planet and just doing for ourselves ever. So that's what this amazing journey has offered to me in so many ways, this notion of excellence and identity in terms of being a Hawaiian, and this investigation, and also this legacy, because I come from a pretty remarkable bunch of folks. You know, I'm very proud to be an Aluli, and you had, that's my middle name. I took that name as my middle name because nobody had it. So in my 30s, I took that name back and said, okay. And then to honor my mom, I left that extra N in there for Anna, because she had that German name in my name. And I went, okay, Mom, I'll just put Meleanna together, Aluli second name, and Meyer. So I all came together in my 30s, you know. So, oh, and by the way, can I share that in the 80s and in the 90s, I was able to do film because I always was interested in film. So this is part of our storytelling, right? That I did a film in my early 30s of Poor Mana about Auntie Irmgard. She's my hero. She's one of my heroes in life. And then I was doing, there's a great story I wanted to share about Onipa'a, about 93. And then also about 98 about sharing about Ho'okuikahi, the events that happened on Hawaii Island. So maybe I'll just stop there, and there's a big long life. That's why I get plenty of stuff for talk about. So,
you know, you said something that was, and you used the word, you know, you said the phrase, "This is my extraordinary story." And, you know, many people, and I work with a number of students over the years, and we've come away from for some reason, there's a sin to look at one's experience as extraordinary, even if it means my extraordinary doesn't mean it displaces yours. I can be extraordinary in the way I look at my journey, and you can be extraordinary. Extraordinary people, is a plural event. But for some reason, you know, for us to say, well, my life is extraordinary, you know, even today, and I see my life as extraordinary, I have to, because if I don't, who will? And if I don't see myself as extraordinary, then ordinary for me is a scary place to be. I can get lost, and I can go blind, and nobody will know that I even exist. I need to be extraordinary. And so part of this Ka'a movement is to get people out of that decolonized mindset that you're not intended for excellence. You know, because on a canoe, even if it's a small, you know, even if it's a 6-man canoe, a 6-person canoe, everybody has to be extraordinary in that canoe. It doesn't matter if you're the steers person or the stroker or somebody in between. Everybody has to be extraordinary. In the halau, everybody has to be extraordinary. Even if you have challenges, you might not be the best dancer, but you have to be extraordinary to your own, you know, your abilities. And we really dig down in that. We spend many years developing people's extraordinary sense of potential. And so, you know, I like that you said that, because we got to get away from that false humility that says, I'm not extraordinary.
Well, that slipped, by the way.
Yeah, we have to be extraordinary. You know, a mother that gives birth, she's not just ordinary, she's extraordinary. She's pushing. I mean, we just had our daughter that she had a home birth, and I was like, whoa, you know, there's nothing mediocre. We don't descend from mediocrity. We don't.
It's a miracle. It's a miracle, right? It's
Yes.
a miracle to have a baby. So when you're talking about that, it is a miracle. So many things are, and we lessen our lives by placing ourselves in these little boxes. And you know, Taupuri, is so great that you're talking about this, because today I was teaching at Honolulu Community College, and one of my colleagues said, oh, and I'm a visionary. And you know what? I turned to her and I said, can I be one too? Because, you know, I was just talking about making films and doing this and that. And she claimed it. And I said, hey, the best thing about being an artist is that we get to share our ideas. So if you're a visionary today, can I be a visionary too? And then somebody else mentioned that they were a healer. And I went, hey, we're talking about healing today. This is the work I'm doing. So I'm so glad that you're talking about excellence, and we're talking about excellence and being extraordinary. It just means we try hard.
Yeah. And, you know, and then this word huakai. So guys, if you're looking at this word huakai, you know, you see the word hua again, and kai it means sequence. So huakai means a sequence of hua. And when we're on a journey, there is many small journey stories that populate the big journey story. So this is where sometimes people get confused, like, you know, I'm in this Hawaii, and then there's like this other journey that starts. Well, that's the beauty of a good story, is that there's all these side stories So Hi'iaka never goes in a straight route. There's always this side story that's happening. She comes off the major trail, and the reason why our epic ka'au have all these side stories, it's a way of engaging the diverse audience. Because some people may not relate to this side story, so you give them another story to relate to. Some people don't relate to the mo'o actions and hi'iaka, but they do when hi'iaka is dealing with the mano. Some people love the healing piece. So when hi'iaka is healing someone, they pay extraordinary attention to that piece of her hi'iaka's development. Some people, and we're the whispering communities, we're curious about this world we call this ability of sorcery, the manipulation of energy. And when hi'iaka goes into that story where she's beginning to manipulate energy, some of us wake up to that. So Ahua Ka'i, so it has many different smaller chapters that make up the bigger, you need multiple chapters to make up a book. So, I think how we can understand, when we talk about a story, we can say, well, do you want my small story or do you want my big story? Because my small story would be like Meleanna in France. Because if you look at her story in you will have the hua again, you have the ha'alele, then you have the hua ka'i, and then as a result of being in France, how has France contributed to who she is today? If you look at Meleanna in a Catholic school, you begin the whole hua ka'i again. So these are the little side stories that contribute to the whole. Or you can look at Meleanna's big story, which her canoe has not landed yet. That canoe lands when she closes her eyes. And her body goes into, her body returns to detritus, and the soul is liberated, and hopefully gets called back into a mo'opuna. So that's the huaka'i. There's a sequence, and big stories and small stories. And so, some of us, we can deal with the smaller ones because they're like your story of being a mother or a father or being a professor at the university system. You can see your whole huaka'i, you can see a whole ka'au in those little stories.
Absolutely.
But then when you put them all together, there's this huge epic, an extraordinary epic. And perhaps, you're the best reader of your own, why not enjoy your story? Why be afraid of your story? Why, if you let your story be a best reader, even if you're the only one reading the book.
Absolutely.
Because when you have a room of best stories, people don't have a problem sharing their stories and supporting the stories of others. So there's no such thing as, I have to be the diva of the story, that my story is the only one that matters. People that go on these journeys, these rites of passage, they're highly attuned to the support of others, and they'll look at these young children and they'll begin to contribute, like, oh yeah, that person's going to go on a journey real soon. And as they begin to journey, you always will find your challengers, people that will challenge you, but you'll always find your supporters. In the case you had at the point when you say you didn't want to be here anymore, but before you did, you asked your ancestors, you said, somebody come and talk to me right now. I'm packing up here. There's going to be a departure. And this is an extremely urgent situation. I need you. And they came. And then what did it come with? It came, not only your ancestors came, but they provided you with a person in the community.
A path.
Yeah, they provided you somebody in the community that could give you the warm support, not just the celestial message,
right,
but the human support. That was another piece of that. So your kupuna didn't only provide you voice, they provided you with the human contribution, and it came in the form of Antipua and others very much like her. You see how secure this is, this journey, and this is where we got to take. When we live outside of our stories, we don't have that support system. We're always injured, we'll always be victimized because it's not our story. We're living somebody else's story. And so your huaka'i, I would like for you to, can you share with us one, if it's at your recall, a moment where there's this breakthrough, and tell us, what was that what was the breakthrough, and how did it make your body feel in that moment of the breakthrough?
Yeah, you know what, in terms of breakthrough, okay, this is kind of a cosmic story. I haven't told it to anybody, but I don't know. I actually was born and raised in Kailua, right? And so when I was about 2, there was an accident, so that I had kind of sort of drowned. And so there was a mystery kauka next door who was the fireman. So he kept me alive till the ambulance came and stuff. And they were trying this new technique on babies because I was, 2 years old or something. And it was an accident. But that experience stayed with me for a very, very long time. So I had nightmares about that until I was about 11 or so. And it was a breakthrough when two things. When I worked really hard with a couple of counselors and people, and they helped me understand that part of my life, and that I didn't need to be afraid of it, but that I could talk about it. And I verbalized that it was a really bad thing that happened, but I had never verbalized it before. And also when I was swimming in after my husband's funeral, we spread his ashes in Keaukaha in the bay out in Lele'iwi. I was also in the water again, and I had this chance to say, well, if something happens to me, it'll be sad, but I'm in the water again. So I had this amazing epiphany to choose then, to choose koho'i, or have it chosen for me to choose to live, to care for these 2 children that I had. And that was a big deal because, when you're out in the rough water, and I shouldn't have been there anyway, and I jumped off the boat, and typical impulsive artist type, they're going, what are you doing jumping off the boat? Nobody can pick you up because there's no ladders and stuff. So now you got to swim in half a mile into shore. What are you thinking? And I'm out on this little boat, the Trask boat, and my cousin Emmett's out there. We drank a whole bottle of Okolehau, and off we jump into the, he had to jump in the water with me, by the way. You cannot just let your cousin, one of your baby cousins, drown out there. So it was an epiphany to be able to kind of like reconcile with the moment of my life at 26, to choose something and to continue, living and continue wanting to care and take the kuleana on of what my life was going to be like. And then also to have to do that and to continue to make choices. So that was a huge thing. And I don't think I've shared that with anybody, but I think it's a precious thing to share, because I think a lot of us go through moments where we have to make really tough choices. And I was really grateful that I have a great faith and belief in Keakua and Nakiniakua and all of my ancestors. And all of that was really helpful, because there are a lot of people looking at me going, where are you? And are you going to make it to shore, kind of thing. And my cousin, my little nephews came out, and they were the ones that were able to come and guide me in. So I just wanted to let you know that that's what happened. Of course, I've now gotten rid of my screen. Can you see me still?
Yes, I can see you.
Okay, good.
And
anyway, that's a heavy epiphany.
Yeah. And here it goes. Again, you have a community.
Yeah.
In the ocean, on the boat or on shore, and they're but that trauma, many of us have traumas. I mean, in the academic world, there's trauma. So if I look at my small story in my academic world, there was once a teacher that told me, I can't believe, now already, I come from impoverished immigrant descendants at the bottom of the immigrant hole, and our conditioning is just be satisfied with your lot in life. So it's not just impoverished in money, but impoverished in how we thought about ourselves and our contribution to the world. And so finally, I'm in hula. And finally, I wake up one day and I realize that everybody I'm dancing hula with, Okamuela Chan, Punahele Lerma, Keonana Trask, all of these people were all college students. And then my kumuhula were lecturers in the university system. I've never been around a college person growing up in Kahalu'u that I knew. And we never spoke about college, or that was for rich white people or Asians. That's the myth that we had, when you come from behind the Waihole Poi factory, when that's where you're from, very rural. And we're intimidated by that. And so finally at age 19, I'm in Hilo since 11, but I'm dancing with halau, and I wake up one day and I'm surrounded by something happened. The people I was dancing hula with just yesterday, today I realized that they were all caught. I was living with them and I was wondering, why were they pulling out all these books? These hula people love to read. They were going through finals. The whole house that I was living in, the hula house, everybody's going through finals. I was the only one, age 19, not in college. I get to college to learn Hawaiian language. And then I find a safe place, a place where I can ask questions. And I'm finding that I realize how much of a Hawaiian world I grew up in, because prior to that, you have no need to assess that. Everybody's living that way. But in college, it's all about assessment. I'm like, wow, all these things we're reading about, I grew up with, like 1819, the abolishment of certain kapu system never really came to Kahalu'u. So I was like relishing the world, my Hawaiian world. But then I took sociology and I took these other ology courses, and this one teacher had the gall. She reminded me, she was my trauma. She reminded me of a trauma that I still had. She looked at me and she says, I can't believe you made it this far. Mind you, I passed all the GEs. I wasn't the most intelligent student.
Yeah,
I was new to the whole process, but how was that supposed to help me?
Yeah, totally.
And so when I did finally, decades later, I graduated as a doctor. I didn't know I had the potential. My community knew I had the potential. The Hawaiian leaders did. My father-in-law is the one that came to my house every day to talk to me about becoming a doctor. My father-in-law. My mother-in-law was there to just give me all the experiences that I needed to have a strong backbone, because, for the longest time, she had to be my backbone. And, but when I did graduate as a PhD, I was thinking, I should go back to this people and thank them and say, that trauma, you reminded me of a trauma, the trauma of not feeling good about who I am, looking into the mirror, knowing that I would never, that my questions that I had of the universe would never get answered because I didn't deserve it. My lot in life was to get a job and to make kids and die and don't shame the family. That was it. Don't shame the family.
Yeah.
But this might sound like, when she says, I can't believe how you made it this far. That was just one sentence, but that sentence was a death sentence. I had a choice at that moment. I had a choice. I could have believed her story about me. Or I couldn't. And the great thing is I come from warriors. So, this is where I take oh yeah, I'm going to show you. But in reality, it wasn't her that I had to show. It was myself.
Yeah.
I had to show myself. It was not about her. She was just a trigger device. That was my ancestral. You had a nice dream with nice Hawaiian words. And my ancestors decided to give me this traumatic, angry professor who had a difficulty with people that look like me.
Hey, brother, I had a couple professors, don't worry, who said, hey, you can't do this because you're too emotional and you don't have what it takes. And I'm going, really? Okay, let's go for it then. So, you know what, I think what's important for everyone to know is that we all have our issues and our trials, but it's the choices we make to overcome them
That's it.
that creates the pathway and the pathways ahead. And if we didn't have family, and I don't mean just biological, I mean our beloved friends and our colleagues and folks that we love that aren't biologically connected to us as well. If we didn't have all these extraordinary people in our lives to cultivate these relationships, I mean, why else are we here other than to be in relationship and then to be of service? I mean, I don't understand. There's nothing else to do. So you got to know, Taupori, that, as an artist, I'm speaking to one. People don't know about your extraordinary skills many don't, as an artist, as a designer of cordage and as a fashion person. But I can tell you what everyone needs to know is we're all creatives. We just have to step into the uncertainty or the fear or the unknowing. And a lot of people have a hard time with that. And I actually love the challenge. I love to get lost because then I know I'm going to get found. I love to push myself because then I'll have to go, use my eraser. I'm learning right now to do some portrait work. I don't typically do portrait work, but I've got a young one that I'm helping, and she's got more talent in her little finger again, and ability than I will ever have. So I'm learning from her. I'm learning from my 4-year-old granddaughter, who I have to shout out and show you her piece of art. It's somewhere around here. Oh, here it is. No, this stuff is all important, because this is the stuff that you can hang on top of your wall.
Look at that.
Yeah, she was 2 years old when she did this. So, and she sent it to me, and I said, Abby, this is on Tutu's wall. This is the most beautiful thing I ever saw. This is a rainbow. I get it. So, is it perfect? No. Are we asked to be perfect? No. Are we asked to try and explore and invent? Yes. So that's one of my favorite pieces. I got so many stories and so much fun stuff to share. So this huaka'i is continuing on and on and on. And that's how you get into, crazy places of making films, of writing books, is you just say yes. That's another thing. You got to kind of be careful what you're saying yes to when you're younger. But when you come older, you got to be a little, you can say yes to just about anything and be happy. Okay.
Yeah, there's a science with the yeses, and there's yeses that infer challenges. It doesn't matter the challenge. Is the challenge taking us in the right direction? That's the thing, So now that I'm older, I'm really skilled at how I say yes, and when I say yes, I never say no. I just give reason for others to reconsider the requests. I never say no. So I got to the point where I rarely ever say no. There's always a yes. And I learned this from Gail Makuakane in London.
Right. Hi,
Gail. Who is my team member here.
Conditional yes.
She taught me, she says yes, and then she figure out the details later. So I learned a lot from her. And I learned a lot from a lot of people. Professionally, I would be considered quite successful. But, when you look at my story behind that, I didn't have the guts to be what I am today. I really needed my community. I may have had the essentials in place, but I was afraid of my essentials. I didn't come from a family of educators that I could relate to. There was nothing, So I think part of Mōkaulele is building that community to support each other, and it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be injured, but the injury has to turn into an asset to help advance the story. Because once the injury becomes the story, and we can't get beyond that, then we have to, then things don't happen the way they could happen. Now, let me, and again, those of you in this call, I'm really hoping you're getting a chance to just go, Oh my goodness, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable here. This story is hitting a little bit home. You know, it's I suspect you're here having this conversation, or you're in this conversation because over a time, you've been asking the why question, or the where am I, when, you know, the whys. I love all those W's, you know, those that get us to, you know, answers. Yeah, answers are really nice, but sometimes they're overrated. You know, I like the questions. The questions keep me engaged for years. And when you get the answer, you go, oh, thank you. That was good. Next question. Let's look at the last piece, which is the ho'ina. Oh, no, there's one more, the ho'ina. So as a result of your journey and your ongoing journey, can you share with us some of what are you able to contribute to your community? And you've touched on it, but can you go a little further? What your ho'ina, you know, every canoe that travels has to arrive, but we also like the idea of the ho'i, you come back, travel the world, but come back. In other words, come back to the center of yourself, you know, expand your horizon, but always return to the center of yourself. So your center, how do you contribute to your center, to this world you live in, we share?
Well, you know, I think as a hiapo, in that sense of being one of the elder ones in our family, I feel compelled to also just to be part of a continuing conversation of mentoring. You know, I love to be there for the young ones, because people have always been there for me, whether it's Keola Lake or Halematkua or my beloved mom and dad or Auntie Irmgard or any number of others, you know, in our own community and outside of our community. And for that matter, my mo'opuna, I consider them my teachers. What I am able to contribute as someone who is a hard worker, a worker bee, is you can count on me. I have lots of good ideas. If you want to do a project, you know, look out, because I'll say yes to you, and then we're going to be in it forever and get things done. So I suppose I wouldn't have been able to get Onipa'a done, or Ho'okuikahi done, or Puamana, or Mauna Kea, that you were so gracious and kind to help with. That is the most recent thing in 2020 that I felt a great need to do, in terms of giving back as a ho'okupu to you all who were on the mountain. Do you know that that was an aha for me? That was an invitation and a profound experience of inclusion that really was life-changing. Taupuri, you being there, offering hula, and having us be witness to that, and not just for one time, but when I was there half a dozen times, and I was always, as we all were there, invited to participate. Do you know what a big deal that is, to be a part of a community? And because I'm not a hula dancer, I've never been able or comfortable to be able to stand and say, oh, I can participate in this. That actually was a life-changing experience for me. And that kukulu kumuhana, everything about it, that's my new series of art that's going to come, because that was life-changing to me. And I think if all of us have a commitment to doing work that is pono and pomaikai in whatever area, whether it's sustainability, in juvenile justice, in library science, I don't care what it is, but it's important that we continue to honor not only the traditions, but the learning experience, because that being up there on the Mauna was so spectacular for me, because I got to feel in a very different way a part of your community as a little outsider hula person in the 14th row. I actually was able to feel that this was my cause as well. So going up there for me empowered me to be able to say, okay, what can I offer back? What can I give to you all? So that film that was done, Mauna Kea, Sacred Mountain, Sacred Conduct, was given in that spirit. And I think for others, if they just know that, you know, you can really do just about anything you want to do. You just have to be either crazy enough to try to do it, or dogged enough to do it, or have the skills to do it and everything else, because that's actually how our community heals. That's how our community gets better, is when we have a chance to do for each other. And that's really important for me to share tonight, because that experience up on the mountain with everyone was life-changing. And I know for anyone who went up there, it was life-changing. And we can all write about it. We can sing about it. We can remember those beautiful dances that we learned, because it belongs also to us, you know, as people who are participants in our journey. So this notion of ho'ina is also ho'o, as in to animate, or to keep animating our story. And so the way I've learned my Hawaiian, by the way, Kumu, is to continue in small ways, you know, because the language has been very difficult for me. And I still want to do it. So that is my participation. That is the way I am also in service to the language, because when I try to use it as much as I do in my classes, I invoke our kupuna, I mahalo them. I am doing the work that I know my ohana has always done, you know, in keeping the culture.
You talk about the embodiment, the bringing of action, and and the mauna. Interestingly, it was humbling. Now, and the mauna is its own huakai. Yeah, we all contribute a huakai. We all have. If we've been on a mauna, physically or spiritually, during that time, we have a story to tell. We have a little chapter. For some of us, the chapters are a couple of months long, and for some, it's just 1 or 2 times that they've been there. But the rituals is what kept the community together. And we hula people, not all hula people, but there's a number of us halaus that come from very, we're trained in ritual and we're disciplined. Sometimes our lives can be falling apart, but you put that malo and that pa'u and the kihe on, boom, we're so disciplined. Our kumus did a good job. We've inherited all of these ritual chants and dances. And then not only that, we can create based on the inheritance. But it was humbling for the hula people. I'll just give you an insider's, experience, because we were exhausted. We couldn't ourselves, we needed to make room for other people to help us paddle that canoe. We're running ourselves into exhaustion. So no matter how finesse and many years and unikis we've had, at the end of the day, we're human beings and we're getting tired, we're getting sick. We're, the elements, we're there just to protect the place. Our bodies were being sacrificed every minute that we were there. We needed the larger community. And we had, the halaus had to have a number of discussions, because the hula is a controlled world. It's a science, and we cannot just teach anybody. And what are we going to do? But at that point, we had a choice. Either we grow the culture at that point to allow community to participate. We had to look at, and we had to remind ourselves that there are different levels of ritual. Let's look for a level. If not, let's create a level that's suitable for the kinds of people that are coming on the mountains. Let's make reason for people to dance, and not be the reason why we're telling our own people, if you don't dance in a halau, you shouldn't be standing up. Some dances, we required that you have halau training, but we created a number so that people, and it's a tearful moment when you have generations of Hawaiians who come up to you, Hawaiians that come up to you and says, I've always wanted to dance hula, and this is my first time.
Yeah.
What does this have to do with Mōkaulele?
Everything.
Everything. Sometimes we have to be the mauna for other people. Sometimes we have to be the reason why people come to what they've always wanted to, or were told that they shouldn't do. And Yeah, we have drums that are sacred, but we keep those home.
Mm-hmm.
The drums that, but our people have to begin to touch the drums. For too many generations, our families have not touched the drums. So we create a population of drums that are Noah. It's their introduction. So we have to know our culture really well so we don't compromise it. Because when we don't know it well enough, then we set up our own boundaries. And at what point have we become the colonizer?
Polole. I'm so glad you brought that up because this is Ike Hawaii that's so deep that we don't talk about. And a lot of this is ho'opapa in the sense the challenge to all of us is we have mea kahiko, which is very powerful. And I totally get this in our notion of ha'ina because it's also to ha as in breathe breath into the story so that it continues. So my mana'o is that this notion of awana is really critical. So awana needs to be acknowledged because the culture is living, flexible, needs to be open, but our kahiko is venerated and respected. And they're different levels, different measures. And it goes for visual arts too, Taupuri, as you know, as a contemporary artist, it's not the same cordage, but it's very important because it's predicated, it's measured, it's on the pahiona, the foundation of all of this other art. And it's not just Ike Hawaii, it's also all this Western training that I've had, all of this training from the East that I've acknowledged. So it's like we all have deep purpose in our lives, and this notion of Indigenous leadership is part of our story because it is the ha'ina that we want to continue. It's the leadership of excellence. It's the leadership of Ike. It's the leadership of vision. It's the leadership of ka'ako, understanding community that way. So as you speak of hula, I speak of art in the same way as in visual art or music or any other form of spiritual work, because I consider this very deeply spiritual work. So this hyena fortunately goes on, and maybe we could ask folks if they have any questions, because this is a good time for questions. Please ask questions, you guys, okay?
So yes, guys, let's you have an opportunity, and it can be a deep. What kind of questions you said? You early on you said what kind of questions you like?
Burning questions.
Burning. So
burning. You guys get burning
burning,
question.
You can put it in the chat, and Noea will get it out, or you can just unmic yourself. And but again, this is a time when it's like this is kanikapila, but it's storytelling. Everybody throws in a little bit to support the big narrative. So do you have any questions, any words of encouragement or considerations, or any similarities, any emotions that this would be a great time to channel in this way? You brought up the mauna and my back got a little straighter. You just boiled me up. Now I don't know how I'm going to sleep after this because thank you. I needed that reminder.
Yeah, you go show these other pictures. I didn't put this stuff together for nothing. We got 4 more pictures. So this is as we wait for comments or these are murals and I have these signs. It is time, protect Mauna Kea. This is my youngest son with his 3 children. Working on a film about a snail, very interested in soil remediation. I love to do large pieces, but too hard to do. This is a pic, and Onipa'a celebrating Lili'u's birthday every year since 2006. So when you ask me about my life, here it is in pictures, and I'm going to ask Noea if you can put the other images up too, because then you guys get to see as a visual artist where I'm coming from, because that's also cool. If I could sweet talk Noea into another image, because then, oh, we already saw that. Oh yeah, and there's my beloved Kumu. There he is, Keola Lake. And getting up at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, halal stuff is always early in the morning. Good thing I'm an early riser. And Kikuni, beloved Kikuni, and our care that we need to do, and my beloved Kumu John Young as a Kumu. People can be Kumus just because you adore them. And my mother is my Kumu, and my siblings over here as well. And we get a couple more pictures to share before the this time. There you go. How about that? How about, would you like to find out about your Chinese family that, oh man, that's a whole nother story. Fantastically interesting story. So these images are here for a good reason. Do what you love. This is the way that I communicate visually. We just found our grandmother, Jessie Alai Akana. So she was Aima Navahi's sister. And so important that we looked for her, and just 2 years ago were able to finally find her, because one of the elder cousins who never has been around to our gatherings took us to give aloha to her. I mean, seriously, that was an epiphany as well. So we have so many moments to share in our lives, all of us. I think there are 1 or 2 more pages, because this is what you want to see. If you're a visual artist, this is what you want to see. You want to see like what it is that makes me tick, whether it's the bombing of Makua right here, that was such a heavy thing that I wanted to express. Meeting these kids in Laos, Hale Makua, talking about the land. My partner, my little grandma Opuna, my brother, my beloved, Mo'os again, and my husband of, in 1982, the last picture was on Mauna Kea. And I think there's one other, and there's no such thing as a dumb idea, right? I think, is there one more picture or no? Or is that it?
This is the last one.
Oh, yay. Well, that's a good page to leave it on. We still get a little bit of time for questions. Oh, we get some chat. Anybody get chat going on over here? Yay. I guess not. Come on, you guys. Raise your hand. Because otherwise us guys gonna just talk, right?
Yeah. So let me give them a Havina. So
Okay.
Let's talk about next steps, because dreams and ka'au journeys, they go hand in hand. They talk to each other, they inform each other. But you see, dreams, we can dream for years, but every dream wants some form. And for people that are in the arts, they can translate it in a form, and they can honor it. Hula people, we put it in chant, and we put it in dance, we put it in costuming. When you look at hula, it's a culture of dancing dreams and chanting dreams. We're chanting stories. So dreams and stories are they're one and the same. They inform each other. Now they all want form. What I need for you is, and Meleanna says, the actions, you have to build actions. So what are, and you can apply it to yourself, or you can apply it to students, because sometimes you don't want to talk about yourself just yet. Yeah, it's too vulnerable. But so what I need from you folks, and you put it in the chat, are ideas. How can we get people to manifest their dream? Whether they're student people or parents, or even you, what could be a simple step to begin manifesting that dream? Okay, so let's have a couple of people contribute to that. What could be possibly a simple step to get people to activate their dreams, give their dreams form, so we're not dreaming for 20 years but never move off the canoe? We want to get on, get off, get on, get off, and journey. Okay, you can either chat Lei, vision board from Lei Ishikawa, a vision board. Lei, aloha. I'm going to ask you to unmic yourself.
Okay,
Hi, can you talk to us about a vision board? How does a vision board help? How can it help activate give action to someone's dreams and journeys?
Well, for myself, I love to do vision boards or collages, or even books. And I love to do that because it takes you to the place. So if it's someplace that I love, like Pai Loco right behind me, you know, that was part of my vision when my children were really small, and we thought about how it would be to be in a place like this. And so we're talking like 40 years ago, right? And now we have Pai Loco. So the vision board helps feed that energy to go to that place.
Right. It keeps it relevant. It keeps the story forward. Meleanna,
Yes.
anything to that?
You know, vision boards are only as good as the time and commitment you put to them. So I have these crazy journals, and they kind of look like this, you know. I mean, this is the journal for this year, and it's kind of crazy because I wasn't expecting it to be like that, because it wasn't going to be a COVID year, but it just got so big and chock full of stuff. But you know, at least I'm participating in my life because it looks like that. So what I've seen a lot about in vision boards is people enjoy, and I love collage too, but then you got to get off that vision board and then go do something. So, you know, it's a kind of a wonderful opportunity. It's a springboard. So Leah, I'm glad you do that, as long as those things are springboards that kind of like propel you out of your chair. To go do one of those things that are in your vision.
Yeah. So, you know, in our classrooms, sometimes it's hard to get our students to envision, because when you think about our schooling, it's not about what we vision. It's always about memorizing a curricula, a standard, you know, assessing us. And we don't know, nobody asks us our story. So when somebody says, what's your story? Oftentimes we stutter because we can sing a song, we can chant, but sometimes we stutter. And so, you know, this vision board is, you know, getting our students to even identify with a vision is a huge task.
Totally.
Creating the next steps, creating a safe space for people to actually share it. And somebody said, speak it themselves. Just the getting the embodiment requires that sometimes we get the vision out of our body on a board in action. And when we create, nobody can paddle that canoe by them. Nobody came from Hawaii, from Tahiti to Hawaii by themselves in a canoe. It came with the community. We can learn a lot from those canoes. So part of it is creating a store, you know, a community of visionaries, and that will provide those resources. There's another one over here. Vivian Chin. Knowing that we can free our voices ourselves, even in oppressive situations or contexts, is like school. Can we talk about the voice of liberation?
I mean, I stutter, but like, I think that school is a very oppressive context, and I'm gonna start crying, but also like for my students and for me. And so that even when we're in school, that somehow there's the possibility that we can free our own voices, don't need a teacher, that the students can do it themselves. And it's not me, the teacher, giving them voice, it's them being able to free their own voices. Yeah.
Yeah, I have. Thank you, Vivian. Thank you for sharing. You know, this whole notion of doing is really the most important also, and being, because we're just being tonight. We're being in this beautiful group that you've been able to create for us, Taupuri, and I want to thank you and Noeau and Gail folks. And I just want to say that, you know, I believe that we here in Hawaii have lots of answers for the world, you know, and answers because we're courageous enough to care about each other. And I think in community, that's what we need to do now. And as artists, you know, this is supposed to be about the art people in the world. You are all artists. I got my little magic wand over here somewhere, but I just wanted to share this little silly thing. Can you imagine doing this when you're, 12 years old? This little silly thing. I mean, really? And we used to call it, this is that one. And then there's one more left. when my mom died, one of my friends gave me back one of these things, and it's just a little doll, you know, like reading a book or singing. And this was made when I was a 12-year-old, you know, and it's just the cutest little thing, because I just go, really? I was like that when I was 12. I wasn't anything big or anything. I was just a little kid. So to have these things to remind me that I was a kid one day long ago is really important, you know, to see these silly things that just, you know, because it just, and they're all little angels. Interesting. Yeah, little people singing and being happy. So this big thing about art is to find your joy. It's to find your joy, to find your joy, to resonate with it, to articulate it, to sing it, to dance it, because it is your spirit work. It is beauty. Beauty is all about those things. And if I can share anything tonight about beauty and gratitude and joy, then I think I've done my work. And as an educator all my life, it's a privilege for me to just share time with you guys tonight. So I want you to know that. And can I ask everybody else in the chat if you could put this notion of like, why is Indigenous education important to people? You know, because for me, you know, is it Indigenous education, or is it just education that makes sense, that works? You know, I get the Indigenous part because people need to listen to other people. But I can also say, let's share our good ideas. And my action, and I asked Taupuri if I could do this at the end, my action opportunity for all of us is to care enough about an aquifer underneath Red Hill on Oahu, that all of us are in peril of losing if we can't get together as a community and say no to the Navy, stop with what you have there, and let's all do the heavy lift of caring about our vai, because that is our vai. And you know, just to learn these simple words about vai and vai, and just to be growing in the culture, I think Taupuri is such a privilege. So I just want to thank you for that opportunity tonight to be a creative with people, you know, understanding exactly who we are, identity, our voice, so that we can speak our truths, and share with people that we're here, that we're present, and that we do matter. Our stories do matter.
Stories do matter. It's, you know, it's the earliest form of education, storytelling, you know, and every culture has it worldwide. Every people have it, whether we identify as Indigenous or not. We do, as you're right about the Indigenous piece, and hopefully in our lifetime, we don't have to use that word anymore, because it won't matter, because everybody's stories will be valued, and we'd learn how to respect other people's stories, and their stories mean respect their land, respect their values, respect their decision. That's the Indigenous piece that hopefully, you know, in my, you know, I'm a Pollyanna, you know, I'm very optimistic. I have to have high optimism, because if I don't, then I don't have a reason. That will hamper, you know, I would have to beg the question, why do I even exist? If not, hope is the only thing, hope, imagination. When there's a crisis, that's the only thing that kept us going from one trauma to the next, or one pandemic to the next, was the hope that, you know, we had to hope for better things, and then we had to get behind that hope, and we had to make it work. And so, and we're descendants of that. All of us, Hawaiian or not, we're descendants of people that made decisions. And we're having this conversation because somebody in our life made good decisions that prepared us to be here at this time to consider this. So although Meleanna Meyer is our guest, really, we were all each other's guests. Through her story, we heard our own. Meleanna, I want to say mahalo to you. And just, you know, there's just this deep connection, you know, and we're hardly ever in each other's physical company. Hardly. Maybe I can even count the times on two hands. But you know, spending 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and an hour and a half with you, it leaves me full. I don't feel so isolated. And sometimes, you know, yeah, sometimes visionaries and people that create can feel isolated because this world has to always make reason for them. We have to fight for our place at the table. So thank you. I do want to honor people's time. There is culture and leadership, and it's, the title is much taller than that, longer than that, but I had to fit it in this Prezi thing. But this is Antile Ishikawa. She'll be bringing her story forward, and the actions that she attached to those stories, and how are those actions contributing back to the community. And that's the Indigenous we're talking about. So not just get an experience and then be like a kolea and just go ho'i somewhere else, and you know, and just, you know, it's about returning the energy to the source, entering into that cycle and participating within that cycle of energy. That's the Indigenous we're talking about. And again, it's not necessarily an ethnic limitation. It's where we need the world to go. And we are the people that are holding this Indigenous values and lives. We have an opportunity to share it and teach it back to the world, because a large part of the world has forgotten that their story. They haven't forgotten it. It just went to sleep. Our job is to wake it up.
Yeah.
So I want to say thank you to all. What is this next one over here? I want to mahalo the Kipuka. This is the Center for Native Hawaiian students at the University of Hawaii at Hilo. That's Anti-Gale folks. And then our own program, Iola Halo at Hawaii Community College. I want to say thank you. Noel Wu is a member of our program there, and he's been very helpful in getting us together. It's not always an easy thing to herd artists. It's like herding cats. And so thank you, Noel. Anything else? You know, look at when you're brushing your teeth and washing your face tonight, can you just look yourself in the mirror and say thank you? And promise yourself to sing yourself a song or to hum yourself a song. You know, when was the last time you told your spirit, thank you? Thank you for not abandoning you.
Yeah.
If you're here in this discussion, that means your spirit is still attached to you, because this kinds of discussions don't interest everyone, but it did catch your eye. So say mahalo to your spirit and sing your spirit a song, and let's have a conversation tomorrow. Contact me, FB. You can just Google me, Hawaii Community College. I'm all over the place. Meleanna Meyer, you can just go and you got to dig her down, because she doesn't want to commit to one way of. If you want to have a conversation with her, you just got to go Ellie a little bit. You got to dig and go get that information to her. She's an active member of our community. And again, I'll see you guys next month. Yeah. Lei Ishikawa, by the way, she'll be defending her doctoral dissertation.
Oh, that's wonderful, Lei.
And is it okay if we as students mahalo, ole mahalo you?
Oh, I would be thrilled. Is someone telling us that you guys are going to ole mahalo us? I'm going to say, yeah, let's do it.
Go for it. Go for it, guys.
Mōkaulele. Uola ia kamakalola. Hei nai ua. Maiko o oku ia ka alawa. Mahalo e nao akua. Mahalo e nao kopuna la ia. Mahalo me aloha. Mahalo aloha. Mahalo. I can't pronounce now. But
So everybody, good night. And again, keep your dreams alive. It's your job to keep your dream alive. Don't give that kuleana to anyone else. It's your kuleana. And then let's become supports to other people that, you know, that just need us. Sometimes we're born to help, to be the strength for other people. Don't be afraid of being the strength of your community. Contribute to that reality. Love you all. Ahui ho. Oh, Meleanna. Meleanna, you got to stay on here because we'd have a small conversation.
Okay.
Okay. Bye, everybody. See you guys. Okay, Le Ishikawa next month.
Okay. Mekai. Aloha. Ahui ho.
Ahui ho, guys. Thank you for your comments.
Mahalo.